So this is Sri Lanka. And I'm actually here. Look, no green screens, look. The main languages spoken in Sri Lanka are Sinhala and Tamil. Sinhala and Tamil are the only official languages, but English is widely used for official and commercial purposes, and about a quarter of the population speak it fluently. Other languages include Vedda, Sri Lankan Portuguese Creole, and Sri Lankan Malay. Sri Lanka is a teardrop-shaped island off the southeastern coast of India. It's also been described as mango-shaped and pear-shaped. The poetic Dutch thought it was ham-shaped and named a fort at the northern tip Ham and Heel, or Heel of Ham. The islands had lots of names. The earliest we're aware of is Tamaraparni, red hands in reference to the red soil, or maybe copper-coloured leaves or copper-coloured tree. The ancient Greeks called it Taprobana. And in medieval Irish, it was Tibrafania. Wait, why would the medieval Irish have a name for an island in the Indian Ocean? Well, apparently legend has it that the ancient Irish hang out here during their migrations. Clearly not rainy enough for them. One name for the island in classical Tamil is Seradib, from Chera, the name of a Tamil dynasty, cognate with Kerala, and Tivu, meaning island. Serendib then gave Serendip in Arabic and Persian. In English, this gives serendipity, a combination of events which have come together by chance to make a surprisingly good or wonderful outcome. Yet another name is the Pali, Sialam, which gives Elam in Tamil through the loss of the initial S, and eventually Ceylon in Portuguese, Zeelan in Dutch, and Ceylon in English. Ceylon was the name of the country as part of the British Empire, and after independence until the adoption of the name Sri Lanka in 1972. Sri is a Sanskrit honorific, and Lanka comes from the Hindu epic, the Ramayana. It was the abode of King Ravana, who kidnapped Prince Rama's wife Sita and brought her here. Rama then rescues her with help from the monkey god Hanuman. Sinhala is an Indo-European language, so related to English, Irish and Russian, but more closely to Maldivian and then northern Indian languages like Marathi and a bit more distantly Hindu and Urdu. It's also one of the ingredients of Macanese Creole, which just about survives in the ex-Portuguese colony of Macau. Sinhala has 5 cases, though some grammarians say there are 7. Nouns don't have grammatical gender, but instead there's a distinction between animate and inanimate. A case system in a language is where words like nouns, adjectives, articles, etc. change according to their function in the sentence. All Indo-European languages used to have them, and many still do, like Russian and other Slavic languages. German still has them a bit, but they've been lost in English, Dutch and Scandinavian languages with the exception of Icelandic. Let's look at the Sinhala words for man and book and see how they change in different sentences. Man is animate, and unsurprisingly book isn't. In the book is read, poteratu patai. Book is in the nominative, since it's the subject of the sentence. The man is reading the book is minha poter kiovanava. Man, minha, is in the nominative. Poter is the object of the sentence. So it's in the accusative, but it's still poter, because for inanimate words, the accusative and nominative are the same. That's also the case in Slavic languages, even though the animate-inanimate distinction isn't such a major part of their grammar systems. If we make the man the object of a sentence, as in I saw the man, miniha changes to minihava, since for animate words there is a separate accusative form. So mama minihava dakka. You may have noticed by now that the word order in Sinhala is subject, object, verb. If the man is the indirect object, we put the word into the dative. So I gave the man a book is mama minihate pote dunna. If he likes the book I gave him, which I sincerely hope he does, I can say miniha potato chiamati. Notice that the book is the direct object in English, whereas in Sinhala we like to things, so it's in the dative. In I read the man's book, the apostrophe S is all that's left of the genitive case in English. In Sinhala, the genitive of miniha is minihage. Mama minihage pote kieva. The genitive of pote is pote, as in the book's cover is read, pote kavaria ratupatai. Verbs don't conjugate for person, gender or plurality in the spoken language, so kaniva can mean I eat, you eat, he eats, she eats, it eats, we eat, they eat, etc. In the literary language, verbs do conjugate, which brings us to the fact that Sinhala is highly diglossic. That means that the spoken language and the written or formal spoken languages are very different from each other. Other examples around the world include Scots and Scottish English in Scotland, Swiss German, Greek, Serbian and Arabic. Sinhala is written using an abugida. No, not an albondiga. An abugida is a writing system based on syllables, where there's a basic shape for each consonant with variations to indicate the vowels. The basic shape for each consonant always assumes that there's an a vowel after it. So this one on its own is ka. If you want just k, or just the consonant, you put this little flag on it. Sometimes the additions go at the side, like in this case, ka. Sometimes on top, like this one which looks like the kettle handle, ki. Sometimes underneath, ku. Sometimes to the left, ke. And sometimes both sides, surrounding the consonant shape, as is the case here with ko. I've always thought Sinhala letters looked a bit like teapots, or sometimes faces. Like many South Asian languages, Sinhala has retroflex consonants, where the tongue is rolled backwards, ka, da, da. The last is an example of pre-nasalized consonants, which is a feature of Sinhala. The city of Jaffna on a peninsula on the northern point of the island of Sri Lanka has been a centre of Tamil culture for thousands of years. This is one of the most important Hindu temples on the island. Most Tamils profess the Hindu religion, but there are also Tamil speakers who are Christian and others who are Muslim. Tamil, on the other hand, is a Dravidian language, so totally unrelated to Welsh and French. The Dravidian language family includes languages such as Malayalam, Kannada, really, and Telugu. They're all quite closely related, and to an extent mutually intelligible. Like other Dravidian languages, Tamil is agglutinative, which means it does its grammar by gluing together base forms of words and affixes. In Tamil, the case is mainly suffixes. There's a fantastic word in Tamil that's pronounced Poga Mudiyada Vargalukaga, which means for those who can't go. So like, for those of you who can't go, here's some pictures of Sri Lanka. This is a wonderful example of agglutination. Poga means go. Mudi means to be able to. The y sound is there just to stop mudi and ada from bumping into each other. Ada means not. Ver means those who do, so like er in English. Gal is the plural marker, and ukaga means for. We do sometimes have some agglutination in English, not in this particular case, but we can see how it works by putting some English or Latin affixes together to express the same meaning. So go is obviously go, mudi is able, ada is not, so we'll use un, ver is gal is the plural marker s, and then ukaga is for. So a nice Latin posh way of saying that is pro, which gives us the wonderful English word pro-ungoablers. So I'm going to do something pro-ungoabler, which is to show you some other beautiful pictures of Sri Lanka.
කුසුම් වරලෙහි කෙල අභරණ පාදචාල කිංකිණි හඬ මුසුවන
අදතත් පිරිමේද ලොල් වඩවන මාන ලියන් රඟදීවාය මින් පන්සිලු
කලේ අදුර මකන්න හිතනවා මනාලියක් ගෙනෙන්න ඉවසේ පුරා එළිය කරන්න මහත් විනෝදයෙන් කාලෙ ගෙවන්න උපන් රටේ අඟලක් නැත මගේ කියන්න මාව අසරණේ කී අතර මංග ඒ රහඳ දෙකටත් ඇරිවි අදුර මකන්න මාව උවක්මි ආසෙ පාවෙන්න රහඳ දෙකටත් ඇරිවි අඳුර මකන්න මාව තරුවක් වෙමි අහසෙ පාවෙන ආතර සිඤ්ඤෝන් යුන් කරන් වරෙන් පියානෝ
Nouns are classified as rational and irrational. Rational nouns are then further divided into genders. Children, in case you hadn't noticed, are irrational. Tamil also uses an abugida, with letters combining straight lines, angles and loops. Some of my favourites look like radiators, na, na and I. I also love the vowel I, that looks like a cobra. I might do a t-shirt with that on. Let me know in the comments if you might be interested. Tamil also has retroflex consonants, as well as dental, alveolar and palatal. The spell checker corrected that last one to palatial. Quite like the idea of palatial consonants. Nasals have the full range, from bilabial to velar. Ma, na, nya, na, nga. There's also a fun retroflex approximant, ra. It's a bit like the American English R. Sometimes it's spelt ZH in Latin transcriptions, which can be confusing. There are two groups of Tamil dialects in Sri Lanka, one spoken by long-established Tamil people, the other, up-country Tamil or estate Tamil, spoken by descendants of indentured workers brought to Ceylon from southern India by the British. Tamil is also the native language of most of Sri Lanka's Muslim community, known as Moors. The Vedda people, who probably predate the arrival of Tamil and Sinhala migrants from India, once spoke their own language, but it is now almost extinct. It may be a language isolate at its base, but it's now very heavily influenced by Sinhala and is thought to have undergone creolization at some time. Jaffna Fort is a kind of microcosm of the history of the involvement of European forces in Sri Lanka. So this fort was built by the Portuguese in 1618, but then soon taken over by the Dutch and expanded in 1658. In 1795, the British took it over, won it off the Dutch. Each of those languages, so Portuguese, Dutch and English, left their mark on the languages of Sri Lanka, with loanwords from all of them in both Sinhala and Tamil. Tamil has lots of loanwords from Portuguese, Dutch, Malay, and also tons and tons and tons from English that I haven't bothered to list here. Kalusan, trousers, from Portuguese calção. Camise, shirt, from Portuguese camisa. Vitru, glass, from Portuguese vidro. Kakusu, toilet, from Dutch kakhuis, meaning shithouse. Kantor, office, from Dutch kantor. Kacang, peanuts, from Malay kacang. Sinhala has loanwords from a similar group of languages and often changes the endings to make them fit in with Sinhalese grammar. Janela, window, from Portuguese janela. Poranua, oven, from Portuguese forno. Interesting that they had to fit in lots of vowels between the consonant clusters there. Aardappel, potato, from Dutch aardappel. Kalukuma, turkey, from Dutch kalkoen. Kwitansia, receipt, from Dutch kwitantie. Pudima, pudding, from English pudding. Jolly, fun, from English jolly. Bukia, bookmaker, from English bookie. And botuva, boat, from English boat. English has maintained its importance in Sri Lankan society and is spoken as a first language by a small elite in exclusive neighbourhoods in the Colombo 7 postal district. The most distinctly local variety is stigmatised as not pot, meaning non-standard. Sadly, there would seem to have been a demise recently in the flowery journalistic style with 1940s Anglicisms once prevalent in the English language press here. No longer do the police render yeoman service by nabbing dacoits, it would seem. Another Creole spoken in Sri Lanka is Sri Lankan Malay. The Dutch exiled rebels and royals from their colony in Batavia, currently Jakarta, to Sri Lanka. Today, Sri Lankan Malay, SLM, is spoken in the central Kandy, southern Hambantota and Kirinde, and western Company Roads provinces of the country. The language displays a fascinating mix of Malay basic vocabulary with some Sinhala and Tamil linguistic features. If we look at the sentence, "This child has one good book," in Sri Lankan Malay, "Ni anak nang baik buku yang aku ada," and in this case Indonesian, Anak ini ada satu buku yang bagus. The words pretty much match, except for baik, bagus, meaning good. Baik exists in Malay, but has a certain set of meanings. There are some pronunciation differences. Satu loses its S to become atu, and there are long vowels and consonants in anak, ada, and atu, which don't happen in Malay. The grammar is the big difference. Sri Lankan Malay puts the verb last, just as happens in Sinhala and Tamil, whereas Malay is subject-object-verb. Malay doesn't mark cases, but Sri Lankan Malay uses suffixes, here to mark the dative and accusative. The book is the object of the sentence, so is marked with yang. Having it is happening to the child, using the dative suffix nan. This mirrors a similar structure in Tamil. A lingua franca of the island for over 350 years was Sri Lankan Portuguese Creole. Today it's still spoken by members of the Portuguese burgher community, people with Portuguese and Sri Lankan ancestry, as well as descendants of enslaved Bantu people known as Kafirs. Just like we saw with Sri Lankan Malay, Sri Lankan Portuguese Creole has mostly kept its Portuguese vocabulary, but has moulded it into Tamil grammar. The first sentence means his daughter doesn't know Portuguese. O Sir Sofia per Português no Kusua, which in standard Portuguese would be a filha dele não sabe português. Tamil uses the dative for this, so things are known to you. So Sri Lankan Portuguese Creole has the dative marker per. O Sir probably comes from o senhor, the gentleman, which can be used as a pronoun meaning polite you in Portuguese. Su here is the genitive marker. The verb sua, know, comes at the end, so it's subject-object-verb. The second sentence means the mother and father don't speak it in our house. Nossa casa tu sempre pia tem mai pai. Or in standard Portuguese, a mãe e o pai não falam em nossa casa. Interestingly, our is nossa, rather than being made up of a pronoun and a genitive suffix. In the house is expressed with a locative suffix, tu, as is the case in Tamil. Papia means speak, and comes from a Tamil word, rather than the Portuguese version, falar. Sri Lankan Sign Language seems to have developed spontaneously, with regional differences across the 25 deaf schools in the country. Sadly, linguistic discrimination and oppression of minorities was one of the factors that led to the Sri Lankan Civil War, which ravished the country between 1983 and 2009. Education and learning, both for its own sake and for the opportunities that it gives, have always been a very, very high priority in Tamil culture. During the time of the British occupation of what was then Ceylon, there were very many schools, many of them English language schools, here in Jaffna and in the Tamil-speaking regions of the country. This love of learning and proficiency in English then led the British to disproportionately use Tamil people in the administration, not just of Sri Lanka, but of other colonies in South Asia and the Far East. On independence, 50% of the civil servants in Sri Lanka were Tamil, which was a very large proportion compared to their proportion, their demographic proportion in the population. This caused a certain amount of resentment. In 1954, an act was proposed by the then independent, still Ceylonese government, which was called the Sinhala Only policy, the Sinhala Only Act, in which English, which had previously been the only official language, was replaced by Sinhala as the only official language. This had dual impact on the Tamil-speaking population. One, many of them didn't speak Sinhala. Two, their own language, Tamil, which was the language of around 45% of the population, wasn't given any official status, and English had no official status, and they were the most proficient speakers of English. So in order to carry on in their jobs, they had to pass very stringent Sinhala language examinations, which many of them couldn't. This led to all kinds of unrest, and in June 1981 there was a disturbance in Jaffna, during which 2 Sinhalese policemen were killed. In retaliation, and with quite probably the collaboration of the government, mobs of police and other people burnt down this fantastic library behind me, destroying 97,000 books and priceless and irreplaceable manuscripts going back thousands of years, and some of them documenting the very early history of Tamil people in Sri Lanka. This was the biggest instance of biblioclasty, burning books, in the 20th century, and was seen as an attempt to eradicate the cultural identity of the Tamil people, and was clearly a very, very deeply felt injury to them and their culture. The library was subsequently rebuilt and then partially destroyed again during the ensuing civil war. And here it is today in all of its splendour. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Please like, subscribe, watch the next one and share with your friends. That might help me fund future trips to exotic linguistic destinations.